Have you ever felt it? That sudden volcanic eruption of heat that starts in your chest and floods every inch of your body. A single comment, a thoughtless action, a moment of profound injustice, and suddenly the world narrows to a single, burning point. Your heart hammers against your ribs, your jaw clenches, and your mind races with words you want to scream and actions you want to take. This is the blinding flash of anger, a force of nature that can feel as uncontrollable as a lightning strike. We are told to suppress it, to count to 10, to breathe it away. We are taught that anger is a destructive, primitive emotion, a sign of weakness, a temporary madness that we must cage and control. But what if this is only half the story? What if we have been profoundly mistaken about the nature of this powerful human experience? What if anger isn't just a fire that burns, but a fuel that can be harnessed? What if, within that searing heat, lies the most potent energy source you possess for profound and positive change? The Stoic philosophers, masters of the human psyche, understood this duality better than anyone. They recognized anger as a dangerous master, but also as a powerful messenger. They knew that the person who learns not to extinguish this fire, but to channel its heat, becomes unstoppable. They become an alchemist of the soul, capable of transforming the base metal of raw fury into the gold of purposeful action. Today, we are not going to learn how to stop being angry. We are going to learn how to be angry better. We will embark on a journey to understand the anatomy of our rage, to listen to its hidden message, and to forge it into a tool for building a better life in a better world. We will learn how to take that raw, chaotic energy that threatens to tear us apart and use it to construct the person we are meant to be. This is the art of turning anger into action. To begin this transformation, we must first journey into the heart of anger itself, guided by the wisdom of the ancients. The great Stoic philosopher Seneca, who advised the volatile Emperor Nero, knew the face of anger intimately. He wrote, "Anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured." This is the crucial first insight. Before anger ever touches the person or situation that triggered it, it first corrodes us, the host. It floods our system with stress hormones, clouds our judgment, and disconnects us from our rational mind. The Stoics called this a brief madness, because in its grip, we are no longer ourselves. We are puppets of a primal impulse. This impulse is rooted in our biology. When we perceive a threat, a violation, or an injustice, our brain's ancient survival circuits ignite. The amygdala, our emotional sentinel, screams danger, triggering the fight-or-flight response. Adrenaline and cortisol surge through our veins, preparing the body for intense physical exertion. Our heart rate skyrockets, our muscles tense, our breathing becomes shallow and rapid. This is a magnificent, powerful, and life-saving mechanism designed to help us fight a predator or flee from a fire. The problem is, in the modern world, the predator is often an insulting email, a traffic jam, or a political disagreement on social media. The physiological response is the same, but the outlet for that immense energy is gone. It becomes trapped within us, a storm raging in a sealed room. Modern culture often suggests a simple, yet flawed solution: venting. We are told to let it all out, to punch a pillow, to scream into the void. While this might offer a momentary release, it often acts like pouring gasoline on a fire. The act of rehearsing our anger, of dwelling on the injustice and replaying the offense, can deepen the neural pathways of rage, making it easier to get angry the next time. It reinforces the narrative of victimhood and outrage without providing a constructive path forward. The Stoics proposed a radically different approach. They did not advocate for suppression, which is merely bottling up the poison, nor for mindless venting, which is spraying it indiscriminately. They advocated for something far more sophisticated: interrogation. They understood that anger is not the event itself, but our judgment about the event. As the freed slave and revered philosopher Epictetus taught, men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. The traffic jam is not, in itself, rage-inducing. It is a collection of metal boxes moving slowly. The anger comes from our judgment. This should not be happening. This is ruining my day. That driver is an idiot and is doing this to me. Anger, therefore, is information. It is a powerful signal flare fired from the depths of our psyche. It is screaming a message that we desperately need to hear. That signal tells us that one of our core values has been violated, a critical boundary has been crossed, or a deeply held expectation has been shattered. The anger we feel when someone lies to us is not just about the lie. It's a signal that our value of honesty has been attacked. The frustration we feel when we are stuck in a dead-end job is a signal that our need for growth and meaning is being starved. The rage that erupts from witnessing an act of cruelty is a signal that our fundamental belief in justice and compassion has been desecrated. The first task of the emotional alchemist, then, is not to silence the signal, but to decode its message. To see anger not as a chaotic enemy, but as a disciplined messenger bringing urgent news from the front lines of your soul. The goal is to quiet the noise of the emotion just long enough to hear the wisdom it contains. When you can look at your own anger with this level of curiosity, you have taken the first and most critical step away from being its slave and toward becoming its master. You are no longer just a vessel for the acid. You are the chemist ready to analyze its properties and discover its potential. Once we recognize anger as a messenger, our task shifts from reacting to its heat to interpreting its message. This requires a conscious, deliberate process, an internal alchemy that transforms the raw, destructive energy of rage into the focused, constructive power of reason. This is not a passive act of waiting for the anger to subside. It is an active engagement with the emotion, a series of mental steps designed to harness the storm. The first and most crucial step in this entire process is the creation of a sacred pause. When an event triggers that initial flash of heat, our primal instinct is for immediate reaction. The space between the spark and the explosion is infinitesimally small. The Stoics' primary discipline is to intentionally wedge that space open. The philosopher and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl, whose work echoes deep Stoic principles, articulated this perfectly. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. This space, this sacred pause, is where our power lies. It can be as short as a single, deep breath. It can be the act of physically walking away from the situation for a moment. It can be the mental habit of refusing to speak the first words that leap to your mind. In that pause, you are wresting control back from the amygdala and handing it to your prefrontal cortex, the seat of rational thought. You are telling your primal brain, "Thank you for the signal. I will take it from here." With that sliver of space created, you can move to the second step, interrogating the impression. Epictetus advises students to challenge their initial impressions, to speak to them directly. You are just an impression and not at all the thing you claim to be. This means mentally stepping back and dissecting the situation with the precision of a surgeon. You must ask yourself a series of critical questions. First, what has actually happened here? Stripped of all my emotional language and judgment, instead of "my boss humiliated me in front of everyone," it becomes, "During the meeting, my boss stated that my report contained errors and asked me to revise it." The first statement is a judgment that invites rage. The second is an observation that invites analysis. With a clear, objective picture of the event, you must perform a crucial mental sort. Imagine yourself standing in the middle of the situation and begin to separate every element into one of two categories: things that are truly yours and things that belong to the world outside of you. The world's category is vast. It contains other people's opinions, their moods, their decisions, and their words. Your boss's tone, their choice to criticize you publicly, these are theirs, not yours. To rage against them is to rage against the tide, a futile and exhausting battle against forces that were never yours to command in the first place. Anger is born from this futile struggle, from trying to control the uncontrollable. Now, turn your full attention to the second category, the one that truly matters. Your own domain. This is where your real power resides. You command your response. You command your integrity. You command the choice to review your work for errors or to stand by its quality. You command the decision to seek a private conversation to establish a boundary for future interactions. Wisdom redirects the immense energy of your anger away from the things you cannot change and focuses it like a laser on the things you can. This single, powerful shift in perspective transforms your entire posture from that of a helpless victim tossed on the waves of circumstance to that of a powerful agent who has absolute command of their own actions. The third step is to identify the underlying value. Anger is a surface emotion, a noisy symptom of a deeper issue. You must ask, what core value of mine has been violated here? The anger at your boss isn't just about the criticism. Perhaps it touches on your core value of respect, or maybe it triggers a fear of incompetence, violating your value of mastery and diligence. Or perhaps you feel it was unjust, violating your core value of fairness. When you name the violated value, respect, justice, security, honesty, you transform the anger from a vague, overwhelming feeling into a specific, solvable problem. The goal is no longer the fuzzy and destructive, get revenge on my boss, but the clear and constructive, re-establish a sense of respect in my professional interactions. This leads directly to the fourth and final step of the alchemical process, reframing the goal. The raw, untamed goal of anger is almost always primitive and negative. It seeks to punish, to harm, to dominate, to prove the other person wrong. It is a goal born of ego and pain. The transformed Stoic goal is always constructive and virtuous. It seeks to solve, to restore, to learn, and to build. You must consciously ask yourself, given the value that was violated, what is a constructive outcome I can work towards? If the value was justice, the goal becomes, how can I ensure a just outcome is reached? If the value was respect, the goal becomes, what actions can I take to command respect and set boundaries? If the value was security, the goal becomes, what steps can I take to strengthen my position and reduce my vulnerability? This reframing is the moment of true alchemy. It is the point where the immense energy generated by the fight or flight response is disconnected from the primitive goal of fight and rerouted to the enlightened goal of build. You have not suppressed the energy. You have given it a new, more intelligent mission. You have taken the chaotic heat of the forge and are now ready to direct it with the skill of a master blacksmith. Having performed the internal alchemy of transforming rage into reason, the final and most important stage is to channel that potent, redirected energy into virtuous action. An insight that does not lead to a change in behavior is merely a pleasant thought. The Stoics were pragmatists above all else. Philosophy was a guide for living, not a subject for abstract debate. The entire purpose of understanding and transforming your anger is to fuel a better, more effective way of being in the world. The energy of anger, now clarified and aimed by reason, must be expressed through the cardinal virtues: justice, courage, temperance, and wisdom. These become the channels through which the flood of energy can flow productively. Consider action rooted in justice. If your anger was triggered by an act of unfairness, a colleague stealing your idea, a systemic inequality, a promise broken, the transformed energy is now fuel for restoring balance. The primitive impulse is for revenge, to see the other person punished. The virtuous action is to seek justice. This might mean meticulously documenting the situation and presenting it to a higher authority. It might mean organizing with others to challenge an unfair policy. It might mean having a calm, firm conversation to set the record straight. Instead of stooping to their level with gossip or sabotage, you rise above it by using the energy to reinforce the very principle they violated. You become an agent of justice, not another perpetrator of harm. Next, consider action rooted in courage. Often our anger signals a place where we feel powerless or afraid. We might be angry about being consistently overlooked for a promotion, but beneath that anger is a fear of speaking up, of asking for what we deserve, of facing potential rejection. The energy of that anger can be the very rocket fuel you need to overcome this fear. It can power you through the discomfort of scheduling a meeting with your manager to discuss your career path. It can drive you to spend your evenings learning a new skill that makes you undeniable. Anger, in this sense, illuminates the dragon you are afraid to face, and then hands you the sword with which to face it. The courageous action is to walk toward the thing that the anger has revealed you are avoiding. Then there is the paradoxical power of action rooted in temperance or self-control. This is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect. Sometimes the most powerful and strategic action is a deliberate and calculated inaction. This is not the same as suppression. Suppression is fearful avoidance. Temperate inaction is a strategic choice made from a position of strength. You feel the surge of anger, you analyze it, and you conclude that engaging in this particular battle would be a waste of precious energy and would not serve your larger goals. You channel the energy not into an external fight, but into the internal discipline of letting it go. You refuse to grant the triviality power over you. You save that potent energy for a fight that truly matters. This is the wisdom of choosing your battles, a hallmark of a true leader and strategist. Finally, all these actions culminate in the highest virtue, wisdom. Every bout of anger, when processed through this Stoic framework, is a profound learning opportunity. The ultimate use of its energy is to gain deeper insight into yourself and the nature of the world. After the situation has passed, the wise person channels the residual energy into reflection. What did this event teach me about my own triggers? What false beliefs am I holding about how the world should be? How can I better prepare myself for similar situations in the future? This is how you turn a painful experience into a permanent upgrade to your character. The anger becomes a teacher, and the energy it provided is used to integrate its lesson, making you stronger, calmer, and wiser than you were before. You have not only solved the immediate problem, but you have also used it to forge a more resilient self. The fire didn't just test the steel, it tempered it. Now, before you go, let me tell you an ancient parable that captures the heart of this transformation. The parable of the river. In a valley nestled between two great mountains, there lived a community of farmers whose lives depended on a powerful, winding river. For most of the year, the river was their lifeline, nourishing their crops and providing for their families. But every spring, without fail, the snows on the mountains would melt, and the river would swell into a raging, violent torrent. It would burst its banks, flooding the valley, destroying their homes, and washing away the fertile topsoil from their fields. Every year, the farmers would curse the river. They would shake their fists at its muddy, churning waters, their hearts filled with anger and despair at its destructive power. After the flood receded, they would work tirelessly, their bodies aching and their spirits broken, to rebuild their dams and replant their ruined fields, only to know that the same fate awaited them the following year. One year, a young farmer named Cale, after losing his third consecutive crop to the flood, felt a different kind of anger. He was tired of being a victim of the river's fury. He started studying its currents, the way it tore at the banks, the immense raw power contained within its movement. An idea born from his focused anger began to form in his mind. The river's power was the problem, but what if it could also be the solution? For the rest of the year, Cale did not just rebuild his old dams. He used the energy of his frustration to study, to plan, and to persuade. Instead of building walls to fight the river, he began digging channels. He carved deep canals that would divert the excess water away from the main fields during the flood season. At the end of the main channel, using plans he had painstakingly drawn, Cale and his friends constructed a massive water wheel. When the spring came and the floods began, but this time something different happened. The raging torrent filled the new channels. Instead of destroying the fields, the water roared down the canal and struck the great wheel, causing it to turn with incredible speed. The wheel was connected to a series of grinding stones and irrigation pumps. The very force that had once brought ruin and despair was now grinding their grain into flour and watering fields in the drier parts of the valley. The river's anger had been transformed. It was no longer an enemy to be feared, but a powerful partner to be respected. Cale had not stopped the river. He had not diminished its power. He had understood it, harnessed it, and transformed its destructive rage into constructive, life-giving action. Your anger is that river. You can spend your life cursing its floods and rebuilding what it destroys. Or you can do as Cale did. You can stand at its edge, study its power, and have the wisdom to ask, how can I channel this? By creating the channels of reason and the structures of virtue, you can transform the most destructive force in your emotional life into the very engine of your growth, your success, and your peace. That is the promise and the power of the Stoic path.